Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, everybody.
Wow.
What you got today, Brian?
Oh, this is going to be so much fun.
I love doing this.
They say
that
the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Well, I've also heard them say that the first step is the hardest.
Who are these people anyway? Well, thankfully, starting or restarting your business on Amazon doesn't have to be hard.
If you're looking to start or restart your Amazon business, make sure you consider joining a Kickstart boot camp.
Oh, I know. I've heard all about these Kickstart boot camps, Rob and Joy. But why don't you go ahead and tell us about what you can get if you join one of those
I tell you what,
Kickstart boot camps?
I am loving hosting these Kickstart boot camps. I am having such great response from the students and seeing people actually make progress. It's just so rewarding for me. So what happens there is, and you can find this in the Proven Amazon course. It's for Proven Amazon course members. And what happens is you sign up for the Kickstart. There is a one-time charge for that. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it gives you a 4-week group where we have a separate Facebook group outside of the larger MST Facebook group, although you can also be a part of that at the same time, where we have a place where you can just ask questions when you're new and kind of have, I'm in there as a coach to help you understand what to do next, how to get started. Brian, we're always telling people, take action. You have to take action. And I have people out there that are saying, I'm ready to take action. I just don't know what action to take. Can you help me out? That's what the Kickstart Bootcamp is for.
Yep.
4 weeks of that. We're going to help you get your account, your Amazon seller account, open and answer questions you have about that. We're going to help you get your Keepa account open. That's the one tool that we feel like is
tool.
Everything's your favorite, Brian. That's the one tool, Keepa, that we feel like you need to get started. You really don't need any others, but we'll introduce you to some others if you want to take a look at those that might be good for beginners. Then we're going to help you find one item that you're approved to sell on Amazon and answer all your questions about what you're approved to sell, how you get approved to sell things, what things that you can, as a new seller, do. We're going to find that one item, one unit really of one ASIN that you can match up with a source and send into Amazon just to go through the process one time. We call it one rep, right? Like you're doing exercises.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to find that item, you're going to purchase it, and then we're going to teach you how to prepare that item and send it into Amazon's FBA warehouse. That's the process that we're going through. And then we're going to have a week where we talk about how to set yourself up and get organized so that you can do this over and over and over and start making some profits. Now, during this time, there are 4 live Zoom calls with a coach, which is usually me, but it could be someone else, but 4 live calls with the group and the coach only. Those calls are recorded in case you miss it, and they help you be able to then, discuss those things in person.
I get to overhear these calls a lot because you are hosting them. And what I really like about it is it's a nice, safe place where people can come and they don't have to feel like they're asking a dumb question because everyone's kind of at the same place. And they're like, I don't really understand what an ASIN is, or I don't, I got my account open, but how do you spell Keepa? Things like this, right? And
exactly.
All the way to, okay, I'm packaging my item up. How do I make sure I'm sending it to the right place and all that?
Right. We're just having a ball, and people are really finding that first place to get started, to take those first few steps and to begin their journey. So I'm really enjoying doing that. So if you would like to do that, pack in the Getting Started section or silentjimdotcom/kickstart. We'll send you there.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I know you start one of those every so often.
Every 2 weeks, a new one starts. Right, okay. And they're 4 weeks long.
Okay, so and tons of great value there. I know it's worth way more than whatever is being charged for it because you get to spend 4 hours with you.
Well, not everybody's always as happy about that as you are, too.
Oh, I know. Yes. I am spoiled.
you are. All right. What are we going to talk about today, Brian?
Well, this is the, I don't know what number, fourth part in the series of the seven, what we're calling 7 core competencies, which are sourcing, shopping, prepping, shipping. Yes, today we're talking about shipping. And then we're going to get into repricing, replenishing, and then business acumen as we round out this series. We just like to revisit some fundamentals, establish the premise here for each one of these. And let's just take a minute and talk about the governors that typically exist in an Amazon replens business. And these are restriction points, things that will slow you down or
keep you from getting off fast.
Right. Or just are, a governor, like it's only going to let you run so fast, right? Those are time, money, and Asence.
Right.
And each of these competencies, sorry, I know you're trying to get a word in.
It's usually the other way around.
Each of these competencies, you can usually tie back to one of the governors. And so when we can when we can get good at a competency, this is going to help the governor restriction sort of loosen up, right?
True.
Okay.
Can I talk now?
Yes, it's your turn.
Yes, time, money, and Asence. In the beginning, we almost always have all of these. We usually...
As governors,
yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. We don't have enough of any of these, right? We're usually restricted in the time that we're able to spend because, we already have lives that we're taking care of and we need to find time to do this. We're restricted in money. Well, that's almost always the case. That's the reason that we're doing this, because we want some more money, right?
It's a side hustle in the beginning, right?
And everyone's restricted in the beginning for Asence. You have to put in that time and that effort to find Asence, and you have to build that. Nobody does that for you.
Right. In addition to the time that you have to spend finding these Asence, Amazon actually puts a governor on which Asence you can sell in the beginning too.
They do.
And so we have to work within the governor that Amazon, as a new seller, that Amazon sets. And then what we do is then we need to get good at finding Asence that are testable within those areas that we can.
Right. Let me be clear though.
Yeah.
There are plenty of Asence to analyze to see if they will work for you. What are there? A billion Asence?
1.3.
1.3 right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Billion. How many is a billion, Brian? Go ahead. Tell us quickly.
Oh, okay. So 1 million seconds, if we were to look at 1 million Asence for the next consecutive seconds.
1 Asence per second.
1 Asence per second for the next million seconds. That's like a week.
That's okay.
Right? 12 days. I can't remember. 12 days? I don't remember exactly what that one is. Sorry. What I do know is a billion is 32 years. If you looked at a billion Asence, one every second, it would take you 32 years.
Without breaks.
No potty breaks, no eating breaks, no breaks. Just no breaks.
Yeah. That's how many Asence are available on the U.S. platform only.
Yeah, just U.S.
Right, then there are other platforms. Now, you're very restricted in the beginning. It feels like more than it is.
It does.
So I work with a lot of people who go through this restriction problem because we see that in the Kickstart a lot. And I looked it up, and the categories that are approved in the beginning take maybe half of that's brands that you're not approved for in those categories. There are still millions of Asence to choose from. Now, do you have to get through all the ones and trip over the ones that you're not approved for? Yes. And that's why in the beginning it's a little tough.
Yeah.
But they are out there. I have seen it. Many, many people get through this barrier. That's important.
Yes. Well, the thing about it is Amazon, believe it or not, it's super frustrating when you're first getting started, but it works in your favor in the long run because you don't want just any person to come in off the street and start selling, all these things that you've worked hard to be able to build your reputation to sell. And then they mess it up for the rest of us, right? Amazon just says, hey, give us a little bit of a track record, and then we'll start approving you to sell other categories and other brands.
Right. And the reason that they're doing that is because they need to build a little bit of trust with you. You are serving their customers, and they want to make sure that you're doing that appropriately. You understand what's the right thing to send in on what Asence, how to package it, that you're making their customers happy. They need to see a little bit of that before they lift those restrictions. So the best thing to do is find Asence that you can sell and send in a few, keep sending in a few, keep sending in a few till you build up that trust with Amazon. Pretty soon they're going to lift that restriction from you.
Yep.
But you can't send in one and then wait. That
Right.
won't work.
One and then wait doesn't work, right? Yeah, it's consistent. In fact, someone asked in the Facebook group recently, like, well, I've sold, over $4,000 of product and I'm still struggling to get ungated. And I don't think it's a dollar amount, it's a number of transactions. For us, it was several thousand transactions, and all of a sudden, all of the gates came down. Now, it is different today than it was back then, but you get a couple of thousand transactions under your belt and Amazon is going to say, yeah, come sell some more.
Right. But let me also say, we do not know their algorithms.
Yeah, we don't.
I think it's, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a combination of things that we don't know exactly. But we're speaking from experience where we've seen people get restrictions lifted. And the other thing to know is, just because you're getting restrictions lifted, they lift these restrictions in pieces. You don't just get everything ungated at once.
Right, yeah.
Right. So you might get ungated in this category, and then you might get ungated in this brand and that brand. And it'll come a little bit at a time. Some brands and some ACEs you will never get ungated for. I mean, they're just not
I think Amazon
available.
Treats those initial categories like a proving ground. Oh, okay. So you're brand new, like prove to us that you can be successful here. And successful being like, you know how to package your products. You know how to get them into FBA. Your customers are not complaining. You didn't source the wrong items. You didn't send in 2 when it was a 3-pack.
Yeah.
Right? All those kinds of things.
It happens all the time.
Then they'll expand the boundaries a bit and say, okay, now prove yourself here. And they'll continue to expand those until they're theoretically, it's not that they're not, you'll always be gated in some. That's just the way it works, because I'm a private label, and some luxury brands.
The brands won't allow you.
And Amazon won't allow you. Too much fraud happens in some of those categories. So. Anyway.
So, wow, we got off there, but this is another example. You see it sometimes. This is how we talk in the evenings after coaching about, some of the things that we want to make sure that we can talk out, right? And we discuss it with each other kind of in this way. So, little opening there. Let's get to the main point today. Okay,
so we are in competency number 4, so sourcing, shopping, prepping, shipping. Okay,
yes.
Shipping. We talked last week. Well, we've been saying this at the beginning of every episode. Of these 7 competencies, you and your partner need to be at least serviceable in all of these, which is why we're doing this series.
Right.
I like to say you got to have all-around game in the beginning.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do all of them. It's kind of like being able to play all the instruments in the band at a very rudimentary level. It's not like you have to be a virtuoso or anything like that.
Eventually, you're going to be directing the orchestra, right?
And it sure helps.
You need to play plenty of those instruments and understand how they work.
Helps a ton if you've actually done it. So, anyway, last week we covered prepping.
Yes.
Well, I think we left out what I think is a crucial conversation. It's not necessarily a competency. I'm not sure that either one of these would be competencies, but we did omit that if you are putting items in a bag, like a poly bag,
or any plastic at all, any bag,
then that bag needs to have an anti-suffocation warning on it.
Yes. And you can buy those right from somebody at Amazon. You can buy them, print your own, whatever, but they do need to have that suffocation warning. I call them "Don't Choke Sisters" stickers. When I was thinking of my sister, who's one of the people who pack and ship for us. She calls up and says, I need "Don't Choke" stickers.
I'm running out of "Don't Choke" stickers, right?
Okay, you can order some more.
Well, and here's the thing, like we usually, you can buy poly bags with that already pre-printed.
Yes, you can.
There. So, we've gone to, actually, we were using those for a while, but now we use poly tubing, and the tubing doesn't have that printed on there. So we needed to go back to the stickers to put that on there. The other thing is, if you are putting multiple items in a bag or a box that should be sold as one unit, then you should put a sticker on there that says "Do not separate" or "Sold as a set."
Yes.
Okay.
And I have heard lately that those are not as important as they used to be, but the "Don't Choke" stickers are absolutely necessary. So.
Yeah, I think the "Sold as a set" is obvious when there's 3 items in a bag and there's a FN SKU sticker on the outside of the bag. But what we want to refer you to is the packaging, the prepping information from the link that we mentioned last time will be in the show notes this time as well. So if you have any questions around that, like, do I need to cover the old UPC codes? That's another one of those. It's like, we've never done that one time, but technically.
But our items are always inside a poly bag. Yeah. So, I mean, some of this is kind of a little bit of a judgment call, but I would defer to the course in pack.
Yep.
The
prep course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
But this week we are talking shipping competency.
Yes. And we're talking about the small parcel. That's what we're shipping in.
Small parcel delivery, which is when you're doing the shipments, looks like SPD is what they call it. Small parcel delivery.
You make a choice that says,
versus LTL.
And what's LTL?
Less than truckload or less than load. Less than load, I think is what it is.
Well, small parcel's less than a truckload.
It is, but LTL or less than load typically implies a pallet or at least one pallet or more. And then small parcel is boxes. So basically, someone's going to pick up boxes.
You can pick it up with your hands is probably
versus a pallet. Parcel. Yeah, small parcel versus pallets. So boxes versus pallets. Now, if you're doing pallets, you can put boxes on a pallet. But if there's no pallet, then it's small parcel.
So both of those are available to you in Amazon. We're just going to talk about small parcel.
We're only talking about SPD, today. Yes, today.
Okay.
Right. What to know about the shipping.
Okay.
If you're doing SPD.
And what should we know?
Well, let's start with the from address.
Because we get a lot of questions on that.
Yeah, the from address is important because your Amazon account has an address on it. If you set up your account like we did, it's a business address. It's like a mailbox it's a post. Maybe it's not a post office box, but it's a mailbox somewhere. It's a business address, right? But that's not necessarily where we're shipping our goods from. And so you'll want to set up a from address in your Amazon Seller Central shipping settings so that you can ship from a different location. Because we didn't get in trouble for this, but we noticed that after a couple of shipments where we were having items sent in from a location, let's say in Cincinnati, but the from address was Denver. And UPS doesn't really like that, right?
Yeah, this was a long time ago, but you can make that accidentally happen. So be sure and watch that. Yeah, because it looks like to Amazon and UPS that you're trying to get around the fees.
And you can set up multiple ship from addresses.
Yeah. So, you absolutely can.
And it's really...
Just make sure who's ever shipping from that address picks the right one when they're making that shipment.
Yes. So that is probably the easiest part. Because then
what do we have to do?
Amazon's made it more complex lately with the inbound transportation, thanks to placement fees and the inbound shipping method. It's not method, but the configuration, if you will, of your inbound shipping.
You have more choices to make now when you're making the shipping than you did.
You can do like minimal split shipping. You can do Amazon optimized splits, or you can pick the middle, which is what I call the hybrid option. And if you do the minimal splits, then Amazon's going to let you send your stuff to one or maybe two locations, which if they're close to you can be a good thing.
For how much it costs you.
For how much it costs for shipping. Then there's the optimized inbound transportation, optimized splits, which Amazon could make you split your stuff into. I think we've had up to 11 locations.
Really?
11 different locations, which then seems like you're paying a lot of money to send to a lot of different locations. And it's not seems like you are. The trade-off is on the minimal splits, you're actually paying Amazon placement fees to take them from wherever that is location that you sent and disperse throughout their network. Versus if you're using optimized inbound transportation, you're not paying placement fees usually. And so you have to figure out what the balance is for you in terms of what that cost difference is.
Yeah. And I want to say, I know you've experimented and you want to talk a little bit about your experiments. And there was a podcast recently where I know that Grant Douglas was on there with Jim and someone else was on there. I apologize.
Jimmy
I don't remember
and
who it was, and maybe King. Okay. Go listen to that podcast because it was a pretty good explanation about what that is. But I want to say right here, I don't think Amazon has it completely ironed out yet. Don't make forever decisions right now. Don't quit. Don't they're still working it out. this was a big change for them and us. And they're still trying to figure out where they need items, what kind of items, how fast they can get them in. And hopefully, I mean, Q4 may be a little bit of a more mess than it is because of this, but keep an open mind. I think there will still be some changes and ways for that to get better. Now that I've said that, you can talk about how you've experimented a little bit with those.
We have experimented, and we've also had some changes in our business in the last 4 months that have kind of changed those initial results. But back in May, I started an experiment, a test with doing the single location, so minimal splits. And we were selling larger, and this is for our private label items primarily, they were larger, bulkier items boxed, right? They were like 994, 995, 996 boxes. And we didn't want to ship to 11 different locations with that scenario because they could have us sending 2 boxes to, a different place, which could cost us $11, which would be like $5.
Those boxes are 1 unit, right?
Or even 2 units.
Right.
I mean, the boxes are 1 unit. Yeah, the 9x9x4 box. Yeah, it's the box. So anyway, initially it looked like it was more beneficial to us to go ahead and pay the placement fees. So we could just send it to central region. Oh, by the way, that's another thing you got to select.
The region.
The region, when you're selecting your inbound method, you can pick east, central, or west. And we were sending to central thinking that it was going to be like a good happy medium. But we ended up paying placement fees on some items that were going to east. So we ended up changing the primary location to east so that we didn't have as many placement fees for those items.
Okay. So without getting too much into the details, what was your overall results from your test?
Cutting me right off. I'm not done.
You're pretty in the weeds there.
Then we went to the distributed or the optimized, and that actually we changed some things in our business, and we didn't have as many large boxes anymore. Then it made a heck of a lot of sense to use the optimized. Okay. With optimized, we weren't paying placement fees, and we were paying a lot less per unit to get it in there. I also believe that if you're using the minimal splits, that your items take longer to become available.
Well, that we kind of did have that experience too.
That. Yeah.
We sent things in that are still not fully received, and it's been 6, 7 weeks.
2 months.
8 weeks.
8 weeks, yeah. And so, I don't know, I can't say that's the case for everyone, but that was our experience with
and that's costing us money. So
that does cost us money.
At this point, I'd rather have paid placement fees. So find your place wherever that is and know that things are still going to be changing. Yeah,
so go to your FBA settings. We actually cover this in the Amazon 101 course. Go to the Amazon settings. You can pick your strategy there, whether you want to do minimal or optimized or hybrid.
And that's you can pick the default.
Yeah, for your default settings. And then you can also pick your region. One thing to note, if your shipment is very small, Amazon doesn't usually give you a choice. You're not going to get optimized splits if your inbound shipping is like 24 units.
So this is not probably something you're going to have to worry about in your first shipment or two.
Right. Yeah. Amazon's going to tell you exactly where to send it.
All right.
So.
All right. Placement fees. Shipping labels.
Shipping labels.
This is something that I know something about. I don't know a whole lot about. I haven't done a shipment in a while. So.
Personally,
yeah. We have other people doing the shipments now. But I know that you have to have 2 labels that Amazon gives you.
Amazon gives you 2 labels, yes.
2 labels to put on the outside of your box. So you have a box that you're putting your units into, several units into one box. And then that box you close up and you put 2 labels on every single one of those boxes. Those labels are the shipping label, the UPS label, and the FBA label, which tells Amazon when it gets there what this is and who it belongs to. Those can be printed on a piece of paper and cut in half, easily put on by shipping tape. That's what we used to do before we started doing shipping.
Stealing my lines.
Oh, sorry.
That's what I was going to say is like everyone thinks like, oh, I need a label printer. And you really don't.
No, you don't.
In the beginning, I taped labels on boxes, and even our first outsourcing person taped labels on boxes. Like for the first year, we just taped paper on boxes.
Yeah.
There can be a challenge with that. You have to be super careful. If that tape gets marginally folded over, or if the paper is not exactly flat and the barcode is not scannable, then you could run into a problem. So just make sure it's super smooth.
That's a good point.
But when we did get the label printer, it was a game changer for us. Absolute game changer for us.
Yeah, it just seemed to go much
because
faster.
The labels cost like a penny a piece. They were super cheap. And it was a thermal printer, and it goes faster, and we could use it as a packing list for our FBM shipping as well. I mean, there were a lot of benefits to going to that, but when our business could afford it.
And that's what I was just going to say. I love the way this business works, the replens business, when you start in there, really low risk, really low investment required, and really high chance of success. It also is incrementally adds expenses. So you don't have a whole lot of expenses. You don't need a whole lot of stuff in the beginning. As your business starts making more money and more profits, that's when more tools and different items will be more valuable to you. I love the fact that you don't have to buy a whole bunch of stuff up front, even though you don't really need it.
Take the incremental approach.
Yes, absolutely.
As your business can fund it.
The incremental approach. Or start using that.
Okay. Or when you're like, you know what, it's worth my time to do that, right? To make that investment.
Sure.
I'll get time back. Okay. Now.
What's next?
Dunnage.
Dunnage. Tell us what dunnage is, Brian. You sound so professional.
a term I hadn't really heard before I started in the Amazon business, or at least if I heard it, I didn't know what it meant. And it's basically the packing that you put inside of the box to keep everything from moving around.
Okay.
Right. And
what are the requirements there?
So the only requirement that I know of is that you cannot use anything styrofoam.
Right. No packing peanuts.
No packing peanuts, no styrofoam from any other shipments that you got. Styrofoam, Amazon
None of the styrofoam pearl pebbles or whatever they are.
They're not styrofoam friendly for inbound shipping. Now when we order stuff from Amazon, it comes in styrofoam.
Sometimes it does, yeah.
I mean, not from Amazon, but from the manufacturer.
Yes. Yeah. Now, Amazon has started not sending plastic or styrofoam to the customer from the FBA warehouse. But they haven't restricted us from using plastic. We can still use bubbles right now. I don't know if that will change. And that's the packing bubbles, the air bubbles. But I like to use the craft paper that's recyclable and easy to use. You can't use things like grocery bags or something like that. That's not meant for packing, but craft paper is perfectly fine.
Newspaper, if you still get a newspaper, you can crumple that up and put it in there.
Yeah.
We ended up buying just rolls of craft paper because it's a little bit heavier. You can pick your weight on it. And so you don't have to, like a lot of the lighter paper, when you crunch it, it just goes flat.
Yeah, depends on how heavy your items are that you're trying to control, right?
Right. So for dunnage, I like the heavier weight
craft paper
that you can, cut or tear off and just, stuff it in there however you need. But remember that we talked last week about how you need to package your items for Amazon, because I have the image of someone like, hey, throw me that box. I need it for the shipment.
Yes.
Right? It's like, and then they miss and it falls on the floor. Or you watch the UPS person throwing a box from the back of the truck to the front of the truck. You need to make sure that your items can withstand all of the shipping that's going on.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So
then there are size and weight limitations you should be aware of as well. In fact, if you look up in Seller Central shipping and routing requirements, there's a phenomenal list there that if you really are bored, you want to read through all that, you can. But
it's a good reference place.
It's a great reference place.
Shipping and routing requirements is the name of the article.
Yeah. Shipping and routing requirements. There should be a link for this in the show notes. The size of the box. This comes up a lot. We see this, right? Amazon says.
I get the question a lot. That no more than 25 inches on any one side of the box.
On the longest side, right? No more than 25 inches. Well, my item's 28 inches. How do I get this into Amazon?
If it's that's considered an oversized item if it's longer than 25 inches. So you can send that to Amazon and put it in a larger box. That will probably be assigned to a separate warehouse all by itself. You can't put your smaller items in that same box with that one.
Right. But that is allowed. If your item is longer than 25 inches, you can send it in a box. It just needs to be the only things in that box. Right.
Right. And then there's a weight limitation.
There is a weight limitation. So I don't know if this is Amazon's weight. I think it's Amazon's weight limitation because I've heard of people like, I shipped the box via UPS and Amazon's telling me it's 55 pounds. And sure enough, when I looked at the label, it said it was 55 pounds. So UPS accepted it, but Amazon will actually accept it, but then they'll charge you for accepting it. If it exceeds
That's going to be a problem
pound.
if it exceeds 50 pounds. So 50 pounds is the weight limitation, unless it's the oversized situation. If you have some one item that's more than 50 pounds, then they'll send that too.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But 25 inches on one side, no more than 25 inches on any one side, and 50 pounds on a regular size box.
Yep.
You put all your items in there, unless it's oversized, in which case it'll go by itself.
And just, rule of thumb for us is we used to pack things up to like 49.5 pounds. And then there was questions, even though the label from UPS says 49.5 pounds, Amazon gets it and sends us a picture saying it weighs 50 some pounds. How does that happen? It can happen because maybe the box got wet or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. There are reasons.
It doesn't matter. It's not worth fighting about.
I agree. It's not worth fighting about it.
Give yourself a little bit of breathing room there.
Yeah. I like what we call like head space. You know, we stop at like 48. We don't put anything beyond 48 in there unless it's like 48 and a quarter. On occasion, we'll do that. But
that's a good tip.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now, when you tape up the box, make sure that it's taped securely. There was a rash of boxes that were going around a few years ago from Home Depot that had like this powdery coating on the outside. Oh. And you would tape it up and then the box would fall apart. And by the time Amazon would get it, had been taped up by the carrier and stuff, but there would be stuff missing out of it because...
Oh, I never heard about that. I didn't know that.
And so just make sure and sometimes it's a tape problem. Sometimes it's a box problem, but just make sure that it is taped securely. And if it's a heavier load, like if it's above 40 pounds, I typically tape the seams as well, just to give it that extra little bit of, and also speaking from experience, 3-inch tape versus 2-inch tape.
It's so much easier to use. Yeah. So another thing I want to say about the taping is, people ask me a lot of times, can I reuse a box?
Yes.
Okay. So I got something from Amazon or Walmart or Target in a shipping box. Can I reuse that to send it to Amazon?
Yes, you can.
To send stuff to FBA's warehouse.
Yes, you can. In fact, Amazon touts their, greenness around this. They would love for you to reuse any box that you can, with one exception. That's boxes from the liquor store. If they have anything about liquor on the outside of them, you can't use those. Okay.
So we can reuse a box, and that this taping made me think of that. If you are reusing a box that has already been used, it might have been used more than once. I usually like to reinforce those corners and those edges so that it doesn't fall apart when it's being tossed to the front of the truck and these sort of things. So just reinforce that. Make sure you take off any other shipping labels that are on there that might be confused or mark through them, cover them up, whatever you need to do. But you can absolutely reuse boxes. So I think that's great.
The one thing I want to say here about the taping and the labeling, we talked about the labels earlier, the shipping labels. If you look in the Amazon inbound workflow, it shows you a picture of where they would like to see the labels, which is actually on the side of the box. And this is, when you're doing multiple boxes, it's a way better solution than trying to put them on top because
they're stacked up and you have to move them to look at what's on the label.
Exactly. Right. So put them on the side of the box.
How we know.
The other benefit here is putting them on the side of the box keeps them from potentially being cut through if you put them on top. So if you put them on top over a seam and Amazon cuts through it and then they can't, they don't like that. Yeah. So put them in a place where there isn't tape unless the labels are taped on the box.
Yeah. This is really detailed.
I know, right?
All right. Drop off or scheduled pickup is the next point you have here.
Right. So then you got all your stuff boxed up. Now what do you do with it?
6 boxes, 10 boxes, 2 boxes.
I used to, and I have so many pictures on my phone from before we gave up the shipping part of our business, how proud I was of how full my car was with boxes. Like, oh, get it loaded up.
On the way to UPS.
And I would drive to work with my car packed full of boxes. And then during my lunch break, I'd drive over to UPS. And there were other people doing the same thing, other FBAers going to the same UPS store, because I'd walk in and there were, 3 or 4 boxes already there. And I'm like, So I'm on to something here.
Yeah, Right. Sure.
And then I would park my car in the parking lot and then carry the boxes in manually. Sometimes if they were super heavy, it was one at a time, right? Sometimes I could stack them up and carry in two at a time. Eventually I got smart and bought one of those like foldable hand trucks. So then I'd slide it with the boxes and then the hand truck.
You were really cool.
And then I'd pop my hand truck out and stack the boxes on there and roll them up. I thought I was cool, right?
Yeah, you did. But I got to tell you,
I know
that's great. And then I started helping you, and then you left town and left the shipment all for me. And I think they were like 18 boxes stacked up by my door. And I said, nah. Not taking this to UPS. Well, 1-800-UPS, come and pick these up.
Come pick it up. Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention, right? You were like, I had gotten to the point where I was making multiple trips to the UPS store. Then when I left town, Robin was like, I'm not making multiple trips to the UPS store. I'm not loading up the car multiple times and unloading it. Right? So she figured out how to get UPS to come and pick them up, which was a total game changer for us at the time.
It was. I mean, it costs some money, so it's not something you're going to want to do for one or two boxes when you're first getting started. But once it's going to make a difference, absolutely. So then...
You remember Frank?
I remember Frank. Yes, we knew our
UPS driver.
Our UPS driver
would come in.
Awesome.
He was, we initially we lived like in this apartment and on a garden level, and he would... trek all the way down the halls, and then we showed him the shortcut where you come in from the outside.
Oh, we love Frank. He's awesome.
We would always give him leftover, whatever it was we were selling.
Snacks or something.
Take care of your carrier.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it makes a difference.
And if we didn't have any leftover stuff, then we'd slip him some greenbacks.
Yeah.
Right? Well, anyway, then at some point along the way, we figured out that there was a better option than calling UPS. And this was the pirate ship option. Pirate, like ARG, and ship.com. And you can go set up a free account and you can schedule a UPS pickup from within Pirate Ship for less than $10. Like, go ahead.
Oh, you don't have to buy your shipping from UPS or from Pirate Ship. They will still come and pick up your UPS shipment.
Yeah, you do everything just like
you were doing
through
Amazon, just like you do. UPS shipping labels, and then just schedule a pickup. Don't buy shipping through Pirate Ship.
It used to be $4 for a weekday for a pickup, no matter how big it was, and $6 on a Saturday.
Okay.
I think, don't quote me on this, because I did see one of our contractor invoices come in today, but I didn't look at
I haven't looked at it yet.
What she paid for the Pirate Ship pickup. But I think it might be $6 regularly now and $8 on the weekend.
It's less than half of what you pay if you go through UPS.
Yeah.
So there's a little tip if that works for you where you are as well.
Now, here's where the exciting part happens.
Yeah. It can be exciting in several different ways.
If you have not opted out of the Instock Head Start program, as soon as UPS takes possession of those boxes, in other words, they scan them in, Amazon can make your items for sale available to customers.
Right. So let's talk about that Instock Head Start program. We get a ton of questions about it. So let's talk about it. Remember, you can go to Seller Central and there's a search bar. Type in Instock Head Start program. Okay. That is a program where Amazon, it's not all items and it's not all sellers. I think it has more to do with the item than the seller, though, because we've seen some brand new first time in be affected by the Instock Head Start program. And you're automatically opted into it. You can opt out of it if you want to. But let's talk about what it is. What happens is, just like you said, your item can be, or some of your items can be available as soon as you drop it off or get it picked up by UPS, even though it's nowhere near where it's going. Okay? Amazon knows that it's coming and it's going to make it available. They're going to make it available to the customer to buy. Now, obviously, they're not going to meet their 48-hour or less Prime promise. So they tell the customer that on the listing, you can go ahead and purchase this item, but it's going to be, 7 or 10 days out before you actually receive it. If you still want it, you can buy it here. And that is one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that we see different prices in different parts of the country. Because sometimes it can get to me within 48 hours because it's in a warehouse near me, and sometimes it can't, so I'm going to see some other seller's inventory in the buy box. Now, that's beside the point. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Instock Head Start program. I just like to mention that when I find.
Well, hold on, before we get too complicated here, we better back off.
Stop it. All right. So basically, your item can become available. Shocks people sometimes when there's their first shipment and they say, "Oh, it's sold before it's sold before they even received it." Yeah, the customer can buy it. They know it's going to take a little while so that Amazon can get it in their hands and send it to them. But Amazon takes full responsibility for how long that takes to get to the customer. So sometimes customers cancel it. That's okay. It goes right back into your inventory, and it's no worse than if they had waited until it was available within 48 hours anyway. But that's what the Instock Head Start program is. Did I explain that well enough?
I think so.
Okay.
I was tracking.
All right.
But also a great reason for you, if you're in the Instock Head Start program, to not reprice your items until they're in the Prime window.
Yes.
Because we see this all the time. Someone has, quote unquote, tanked the buy box, but their stuff's not available. Amazon's saying like,
they keep
it's 3 weeks out.
The price keeps going down and down and down, and customers aren't buying it, and they can't figure out why.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's not available. Amazon has gotten really, really good at training their customers to be time sensitive way more than they are price sensitive. So Amazon customers don't buy if there's something else available first. And you often cannot get the buy box until your items are there. So if you're chasing that buy box, it's not going to work until you
see something in the available column.
Yeah,
it needs to be in the available column in your inventory.
So
page.
This all just goes to the reason that it's a little bit more complicated than get the buy box.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things here. That was maybe the longest list of items we needed to talk about for one
a lot
particular
of little things, right?
Yeah, and not everything we talked about is a competency. But I like to review things just so people don't think that we skimmed over things or skipped some things. And not that we've covered absolutely everything either. But
we did not.
But now let's talk about what we think are some of the actual competencies.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So the first one, you have to know how to create the package, right? That is the package that is the box that you're sending to Amazon.
Right. Put the box contents inside of it and send it out. And
box contents is something that you typically would turn on so that Amazon knows when they scan that FBA sticker exactly what's supposed to be in the box. Okay. The second thing is know how to create the shipment.
Yeah,
so know how to pack the box.
That's something we teach you in Kickstart.
Know how to create the shipment. Okay. And
that creating the shipment means how to go through the system and tell Amazon that you're sending a shipment and what you're sending in that shipment. Get your labels, put your box together. So that's know how to create that shipment.
I think you should also know where to select your inbound shipping options. We spent a bit of time on that today. This is in your FBA settings.
Yeah, you can do your default, and then you can change per shipment if you want to as well.
Yep.
Okay.
And then finally, you need to know how to drop off or have your stuff picked up.
How to get it from you to the place that transports it to Amazon.
Yep.
Whether you have it picked up or you drop it off or whatever the situation may be. We are not, unfortunately, able or allowed to drop off at a prep center. You may have an FBA prep center, not prep center, is not the right word, a warehouse, an FBA warehouse.
Or fulfillment center.
Fulfillment center, that's what I'm looking for.
Fulfillment center, yeah.
You may have one right near you. We have several here in Denver, but we can't drop off there. It still has to go through the shipping system, even if it's going right there.
Correct. Okay, so that was actually 4 competencies. Know how to create the box, your shipment. Know how to create the package, which has all your stuff in it. Know how to create the shipment in Amazon. Know where to select your inbound shippings and know where to drop off or get the stuff picked up. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Just that.
Just like that. Bob's your uncle.
We should have Bob's not my uncle.
Okay. In the next part of the series,
we said a lot of words for those few.
I know. Well, like I said, we like to talk around it a little bit before we get to the heart of the matter there.
Okay.
The next part of this series, we're going to talk about the next competency, which is pricing.
Pricing.
We've talked about pricing
one.
kind of
we
in
hit
every
on it for just a second this time.
Man, we definitely did in sourcing.
Yeah. But pricing it's a complicated matter, and yet sometimes it can be so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, looking forward to that one. Hope you get to tune in.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a quote for us today?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
I saw you hesitating and waiting. Yeah, I know. Brian, do you have a quote for us today?
I do.
It would be so unusual if you did.
Let me just preface this quote with a conversation that we've had the last couple of days around a couple of books that we're reading. Mm-hmm. And there are some books that are, they're hot, they're new, they're like the new...
Yeah,
it contains all the buzzwords.
The latest ideas, the latest way to do.
And those are great.
They
I
are.
love them.
We read a lot of them.
Yeah, I just like, different perspectives on things. And then there are books, like one of the books we're reading right now was printed in 2012. And part of me is like, oh, this is old. But you know what? Some of the older books that stand the test of time are the best ones.
That's true. Absolutely.
And this kind of applies to this quote in multiple ways.
Okay.
This quote comes to us from Alex Hormozy, who I've used on this program before, quoted his things. And I like it because it's new and it's fresh and it's a different take on some of the old standards, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those. The quote goes like this: entrepreneurship isn't a game of best man wins. It's a game of last man standing. Mm-hmm. And this is one that I talk about a lot, not that I'm trying to take any credit from Alex at all, but I say this a lot. This is a business of longevity.
Right.
Right? It's how many successful weeks, how many successful months, quarters, years can you string together?
Exactly.
We're not in this there's ways that we can experience success early.
Sure. And you can even make some profits early. Absolutely.
But it's about sustaining it.
What we're looking for is a foundation, sustainable, scalable, and predictable. That's what we're looking for long term. And when I say long term, I mean, by the end of the year. This is what we're trying to put things together. And, all of the abilities. All of the abilities. Sustainability, predictability, scalability. Yeah. There are probably more abilities, but we want all the abilities.
We want all of the abilities. And you know how you get all the abilities?
Test more Asence.
Yeah, test more Asence.
That's right. Test more Asence.
Great to catch up with you all. We'll see you all soon. In the meantime, let's go test more Asence.
Let's go taste more Asence.
Hey, before we let you go, we have a special segment that we do here once per week with our good friend Jeff Schick from jeffschick.com. He is a legal and policy expert for all things Amazon, Walmart, and e-commerce, and we're excited to have him back on the show. Jeff, thanks so much for being here. And what do you have for us today?
All right. Well, thanks for having me. And today we're going to talk about transparency. So a lot of people wonder what transparency is. It's kind of a buzzword. If you're a private label seller, you probably already know, because I encourage most of our private label clients to enroll in the program. But if you're an arbitrage seller, your first experience with transparency will likely come about when you're going to send a product to Amazon or ship it to a customer and you're asked for a transparency code. So what sellers need to know about transparency-enabled listings is that if you're sending products to Amazon, FBA, and it's transparency-enabled, you do have to have 5 products with unique transparency codes in order to send those products into FBA. So what that means is if you are at, a store, like let's say you're sourcing at Home Depot and you pick up a grill cleaner and you notice on the grill cleaner that there's this little sticker that has it's got like a blue T, stylized blue T on it. And it says, scan me with your transparency app next to the barcode. That indicates that product is transparency enabled. Now, it doesn't mean you can't sell it on Amazon, but it would mean that you'd have to buy 5 of them, because in order to send those products to FBA, you've got to scan 5 unique barcodes, because each one of those QR codes is a different serial number. So you'd have to scan all 5 of them, and that would allow you to then send the product into FBA. If you don't have 5 and you send it into FBA, that's when you'll get hit with a transparency violation, and they'll come back and say, you sent us products, you need to provide at least 5 serial numbers in order to unlock them. So highly recommend doing it. If just as a word of advice for sellers, if you're sending in shipments to FBA and you notice a transparency sticker on the product, take that out of your shipment if you're using any sort of like inventory labs or 2D workflow or scan power or anything like that, take it out of your shipment from there and create its own shipment plan through a send to FBA. The reason is that on the API for the shipping partner API, Amazon does not integrate with transparency right now. It's been like a common pain point for people. So it will not flag that as needing to be unlocked before sending to FBA. It will just allow you to create a shipping plan to FBA. Then what will happen is Amazon will receive the units and immediately put them into their held inventory pot, like bin or whatever, where they're going to then send you a notice and say, you sent these products in without validating them through transparency in advance. You must provide all of your invoices to prove that they're authentic, even though they can scan the stickers that are on the products. And it turns into a huge ordeal, and it's an account health violation that you have to clear, or else they'll throw the units away. So my recommendation is when sending those to FBA, take them out of your workflow and send them in using send to FBA, because then you can make sure that you've done all that, basically pre-scanning in advance. And so you'll just have a separate shipment of those. They'll get them, they'll scan them, they'll sell them, and you're good to go.
Awesome. So you're recommending then, instead of sending anything through one of the third-party shipment softwares, just go into Seller Central and create the shipment for itself for that particular
If it's a transparency item, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I didn't know if you were saying they could create a separate shipment in like Inventory Lab or Scan Power just for that item. So always.
All right, no, you got that right. Yeah, no. So you want to make it in Seller Central for that transparency item.
Perfect. Now, so that's for FBA. What about some of the differences between FBA and FBM with transparency codes?
So FBM is a little bit different. They don't require 5 labels, or at least historically, they've not required 5 labels for FBM. But similar to the FBA issue, if you're using the shipping partner API for like ShipStation or any of those software that create shipping labels when you're selling stuff, they don't integrate with the transparency checker. So what happens is if you send a product to a customer through ShipStation, it will not prompt you to put in a serial number. It will just generate a shipping label and it will mark it as shipped in Amazon. And then about a day later, you'll get an email from Amazon's transparency violations team saying, you sent a product to a customer without scanning the transparency label in advance. You must provide us with invoices to prove authenticity, and we're not going to pay you for this item. So it becomes a pretty big ordeal. And you can lose a lot of money that way because you don't get paid for having not scanned the item when you shipped it out. So when it comes to the FBM, again, I recommend going through Seller Central, buying shipping through Amazon, scanning those barcodes, the QR codes when you're creating the shipment, and then you're all good to go because it'll send it out and you're good. So.
Now, what is your recommendation then? Because I get this question a lot for whenever somebody is buying a product from a legitimate distributor, even if it's arbitrage, you're buying it from Walmart. This product is authentic, but it doesn't have a transparency code. Why is that? Since all of the items are supposed to have transparency codes, and what can a seller do, if anything?
So that would be an example of a manufacturer that is violating Amazon's transparency guidelines. So, when manufacturers enroll in the programs, one of the terms of the transparency program, one of the terms of service is that they have to agree to label all of the items that they sell in all sales channels with transparency codes. Unfortunately, that violation is between a manufacturer and Amazon. So a seller doesn't really have standing to bring a violation. Like, they can point it out to Amazon. You can send it in, say, hey, Amazon, this is going on, but there's really not much more you can do. And so if you bought items like, let's go back to the hypothetical grill cleaner at Home Depot. If it says that it requires a transparency code and the one that you bought at Home Depot doesn't have that transparency code, then unfortunately, you can point that out to Amazon. Like, you could take pictures of it, you could open a case, but beyond that, there's not anything you could do. And you certainly would not want to send in that product to Amazon and think that you're going to prove a point, because you won't. You'll just get a transparency violation on your account. Mm-hmm. So I would say, it's probably better just to move on and find other products. If you really feel like it's worth your time to lodge a complaint, then sure, go ahead and do it. Provide them with the photos and the evidence. But other than that, don't expect that it will be a fast process, and certainly don't try to send it in and think that you'll prove a point that way, because you won't.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for this information on transparency codes. I know that I get a lot of questions on it, so I'm glad that we got your advice for all of this. And I'm excited to see you next week, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.